Unfortunately, they are getting a little bit more complicated. We're trying to make it simple, but they are a little bit more complicated. This is going to deal, this talk, I'm going to try to keep it to about 20 minutes. This is going to deal strictly with smoke detectors and carbon monoxide requirements as they pertain to the new codes, the 2010 codes. Does everybody have a copy of both the yellow and the blue sheets that I passed out? If anybody doesn't, Jesse can get you one. So, and we'll make sure you get those. The yellow one is primarily dealing with the actual code requirements, and then the blue one you guys might want to look at in your leisure. That has to do with things pertaining particularly to the sale and transfer of properties. So you guys would probably find that pretty helpful. What I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to introduce my partner who's going to go over the carbon monoxide part of this, which is probably the bigger factor right now. And then if time allows, I will actually go over the smoke detector requirements, because I do get a lot of calls from you guys with regard to smoke detector requirements. This is Jesse Salazar. My partner, he is a hazardous materials specialist. He comes from Santa Ana. Although he hasn't been here very long, he's only been here a couple of years. He's excellent at code research, and he's the one that actually did all the research on these codes for you guys. So I'll introduce him. This is Jesse.
Sheri, from the research that we were able to do, put together kind of a small list of the highlights of the dates, which will help you navigate through most of the fluff that's in the code. Obviously, if you guys want the actual codes, you can look at the blue sheet, and you'll notice it gets pretty complicated in there. There's also a couple other pretty long documents. I'll just go over those right now. The first is the 2010 California Building Code, and then the sections in the building code are, pretty lengthy. Also, the California Residential Code, which is a new code that we just got adopted on January 1st, and the California Fire Code, also January 1st of 2011. And one of the main drivers for the carbon monoxide is Senate Bill 183, sponsored by Lowenthal. And I just want to go over the things you have in front of you, the yellow sheet, and we'll go over number 1 here, which are the effective dates. The effective dates or the effective date of requirement for new construction. So this is only if you guys are built for alterations to any existing dwelling. Now, when we say alterations, what it means is if you guys, if your clients or you yourself as an investor are altering an existing home, a fixer-upper, and are spending more than $1,000 on a permit, that is what would kick you into an alteration, and it would kick you into the new new construction criteria, and that's from January 1st. So if you guys are doing fixer-uppers right now, you guys would have to follow the carbon monoxide requirement as if it was brand new construction from the ground up. There are a couple of exceptions, and we'll go through those afterwards. Effective date for all existing single-family dwellings with no alterations. So this is your typical home. You guys go and visit a home that nothing's going on in that house. They haven't fixed it up. They haven't done anything to it. That'll be July 1st, 2011. As far as we can tell from all the code research we did, it doesn't say the requirement falls on the homeowner. So it doesn't say that you guys have to provide these before you sell it, but it does say that you do have to disclose it. So on your disclosure forms, when you guys are going to transfer title, it does have to be in there. One of the check marks will be on there that says, whether they have it, whether they meet code, or whether they don't meet code. And it should be the owner's responsibility to make sure that they have those in the units. Effective date for all other types of dwellings. So I don't know if you guys are doing any commercial, like hotels, apartment buildings, income property and such that are not single-family dwellings. Those will be on January 1st, 2013. So they're given a little bit of leeway, a little bit of time to get the bigger projects, the bigger occupancies, time for you guys to get caught up on that. Effective date requirement for any new existing dwellings or sleeping being sold, disclosure required. And then we went over that January 1st, 2011. So, you just have to disclose it. I would say, it's a good idea to have them be updated before you guys sell it. just as a good practice. Carbon monoxide detectors are required for all above noted scenarios. But here's the thing, that not every single house is going to be required to have a carbon monoxide. The only ones that are going to be required is if they have a fuel burning appliance installed within the dwelling, or a dwelling unit or home that has an attached garage. Most homes will be within this requirement, because if you have a water heater, if you have a stove, if you have anything that burns fuel, gas, solid, or liquid, is going to have it. Now, you may have a home that's all electric. If you have a home that's all electric and you don't have an attached garage, you're exempt, because what carbon monoxide is produced is from improperly burned fuels. So if you have an improperly working stove, an improperly working water heater, floor furnace, that's where you get your carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide detectors are not required for any of the above scenarios where no fuel burning appliances are installed, so we went over that. Where to install the carbon monoxide detectors. And this is from the code, but the code always makes a caveat at the end and lets you know that each manufacturer will have a little bit different way to install them. So I'm just going to go over the generic, but obviously the thing to do is to read the instructions on every single carbon monoxide detector unit that you purchase. Outside each separate dwelling unit sleeping area in the immediate vicinity of bedrooms, so in the hallway, generally speaking, on every level of the home or dwelling unit including basements, on the ceiling of all sleeping units in R1, hotels, motels, etc., occupancies which are permanently equipped with fuel burning appliances within the unit. So you'll find that some of the big hotels that have a central heating unit for the entire complex, those won't have to put them in every single unit. But then the older motels that will have each individual FAU and HVAC unit, air conditioning, heating, ventilating unit within each of the separate motel units, those will have to provide it per code. And like I said, where specified by individual detector manufacturer. I'm just going to go over some other carbon monoxide concerns, just a little bit of facts to keep in mind when explaining to potential clients why they need to take care of having these carbon monoxide detectors installed. The first thing to note is that the carbon monoxide detectors should be California State Fire Marshal listed. When you go and purchase them, or your client goes and purchases them, they should have the State Fire Marshal seal. It'll be pretty prominent on these detectors. It's a shield, and it says California State Fire Marshal listed for carbon monoxide. It's pretty simple. It is the responsibility of the building owner to install and maintain operability of carbon monoxide detectors. The carbon monoxide detectors that are current in the market are about 5 years. They have about a 5-year shelf life. So about every 5 years, they are coming out with longer lasting ones, but I haven't seen any yet. 5, maybe 6 years. So every 5 to 6 years, they do have to be replaced. People that are especially susceptible to carbon monoxide poisoning include, but are not limited to. So everyone's susceptible. If you're up and you're breathing, you're susceptible to it. But these are the people that are especially susceptible: the elderly, children, and persons with Parkinson's disease, and pregnant women. Over 500 deaths per year and 20,000 injuries per year have been documented in the United States and attributed to carbon monoxide. Here's what you should do if you do have a carbon monoxide activation in your home or your client's home. If a carbon monoxide detector activates within your home or dwelling unit, the occupant should call the fire department and or the gas company. Have the people in there evacuate the building or move to a well-ventilated area. Turn off the heat-producing appliance. So if you guys have the heater on, if you guys have the stove on, if you have a fireplace on, whatever it is that you suspect might be causing it. Obviously, this is if you're feeling well enough. If you're feeling ill, the first thing to do is just get out. Get out of the house and call 911 from a neighbor's phone, or if you have a cell phone and you want to program the actual police department or fire department phone on your cell phone, that'd be a good idea. Turn off the heat-producing appliance if you can. If exiting is a problem, if someone is handicapped and they can't get out for whatever reason, they just can't get out, and you want to just open up windows and call the fire department, that's also an option. So the key is to ventilate the area as much as possible. Do not panic and don't light any matches or use any spark producing appliances. Carbon monoxide is actually pretty flammable. Most of these carbon monoxide detectors are set to a really low setting where it becomes toxic to people, where it just barely becomes toxic to people. So it shouldn't be flammable, but don't do it in case we never know what levels are actually in your home unless you actually test them with an actual carbon monoxide sensor that actually tells you what the parts per million is. And just want to let you know that the actual enforcement of carbon monoxide detectors, it has been charged to the individual city and county building departments. So the building departments are the ones who are going to be taking care of enforcing this eventually, not the fire department. Not sure why that is, but in our codes, it's all been charged to the building departments. We did a little bit of research and wanted to present it to you guys. But if you have any further questions on the specific requirements in your specific city, and I know there's a lot of San Gabriel Valley being represented here, you go to your specific building department and ask them if they have anything more specific than what the code requires. And now I'm going to hand it over to Sheri to present smoke detector requirements.
I just have a few minutes, so I'm going to do this rather quickly. I apologize also for using the other microphone. I wasn't aware of it, so now I'm at the right one. So on the second, I think it's the second page of your handout, we go into smoke detectors, and probably I get a lot of calls from you guys, and they ask me like when they have to have hardwired versus battery and that kind of thing. The thing to keep in mind, just primarily the most important thing, is when the building was built and whether or not it has undergone a substantial renovation. So basically, for instance, my house was built in 1922 and I haven't done a thing to it. So I only need one battery-operated smoke detector in the hallway outside the sleeping area. That's it. Okay, so generally the time frame when the codes changed is between 1987 and 1989. So if the house was built, generally speaking, before 1987, and they have not done any kind of a renovation to it, you only need one detector. It can be battery operated, and it can be in the hallway on the ceiling. Okay, after that code cycle, the 1987 to 1989 code cycle, the new codes came into effect where they started requiring them in every bedroom, and they also started requiring them to be hardwired, especially for new construction. So go ahead and take a look at the third page here on the back. And we'll just go over that. So requirements basically for new construction, for new single-family and multifamily dwellings, smoke detectors have to be installed in all rooms used for sleeping purposes. So basically any room with a closet, we're going to figure that even if you guys are calling it a den, if it has a closet, we're going to probably have you put one in there. And in the hallway or area just outside these rooms. For new construction, they have to be hardwired into the building electrical system. They have to be equipped with battery backup, and they have to all be tied together so that if one of them goes off, they all go off. Okay, so pretty strict for new construction. For existing construction, anything permitted before the 1988, again, 87 to 89 code cycle, not having undergone any major renovation or any remodel repair that required a permit, estimated dollar valuation of $1,000. Again, one battery operated smoke detector in the hall, that's all you need. Okay, if you do any kind of a minor repair remodel, anything valued at over $1,000 that requires you to pull a permit, they're going to have you put one in the hall. They're going to have you put them in the sleeping rooms, but they don't have to be hardwired in, generally speaking. And like Jesse said, you might want to check with your local jurisdiction because they may have more stringent requirements for that. But that's how the code reads as of this time. So The other thing is now they're getting more strict too, where if you do a remodel, a lot of cities are coming in and saying, well, you know, you did this remodel and you have the attic space and you have access up there, so what the heck, we're gonna have you go ahead and just hardwire them anyway, since you have the area to do it. So again, a lot of it falls into your individual jurisdictions on how strict they wanna get with that. Okay, just a couple other concerns. Smoke detectors have a 10-year shelf life. So most of them, almost all of them in fact, have to be replaced after 10 years. Look for the listing. There is a state fire marshal seal. If not state fire marshal, you guys are probably familiar with the UL and the FM listing. Underwriters, laboratories, factory mutual. Like most electrical components or anything like that, you always want to have them be listed by a reputable testing laboratory. Installation of them, best place for them is on the ceiling. They are allowed on the walls, but it's better to be on the ceiling. Smoke rises, it's going to travel across the ceiling first and then come down. So you have a much better response time if they're installed on the ceiling. If for some reason you can't do that because you have old acoustic ceilings or something like that, you are allowed to have them on the wall, but they have to be no further down than 12 inches from the ceiling, and they can't be closer than 4 inches to the ceiling. So you can do that. That is legal if you want to do that. And then we did attach that section on the blue sheet in the new residential code for more specific requirements pertaining to sale and transfer, which I think you guys would find informative. And then again, look at the manufacturer's recommendations on the smoke detector to find out if they have any other specific installation requirements. And now we have like 2 minutes for questions, so if you guys want to ask anything of me or Jesse, go right ahead. Yes?